Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone, to our March 2026 community call for the Chartres Academy as we prepare for our journey to Chartres in August of this year. It's going to be a very powerful grand finale to the liberal arts program of the Chartres Academy. And we're consecrating it with two events, as you know. One, a gathering in Chartres between the 12th and the 19th of August around the Feast of the Assumption, during which the Black Madonna is paraded through the streets. We'll be consecrating Mary Magdalene as well. And then because the Chartres Academy was dedicated and, in fact, originated out of a pilgrimage dedicated to Mary Magdalene back in 2005, we will be taking pilgrimage from Chartres down to the south of France to Provence to visit the sites associated with Mary Magdalene. It's a very, very exciting upcoming pilgrimage. The gravity of the pilgrimage and the importance of the pilgrimage is being underscored over this past week. It was, in fact, last Saturday, on the 28th of February, that Israel and the United States attacked Iran, believing that a quick decapitation of al-Khamenei, the supreme leader, would cause um, uprising and the overthrow of the regime. And what happened instead is that the Iranians proceeded within the next 24, 36, 48 hours to completely neutralize the US surveillance and radar systems along the Persian Gulf, incessantly bomb Israel. And what is now shaping up, which we all have to take in, is the beginnings of what could potentially become a global war. Because the Americans and the Israelis are rapidly running out of missiles. They're scouring the world in South Korea and Japan for all the THAADs and Patriot missiles they can find. And the Iranians are ready for a very long war, backed up by Russia and China and a number of other nations in the BRICS coalition. In order to exacerbate what's going on, the United States and Israel are seeking to bring other countries into the war. France and England in Europe, Azerbaijan, some of the Gulf states. The Iranians continue on their side to build their alliance structure and their capacity to endure a titanic battle to the death with Israel and the United States. So we are 8 days in to something that may last over the next several months and which is going to affect us all. This is the first time in any of our lives where the world has been engulfed globally in a conflict. The cessation of oil supplies, the cessation of liquid natural gas, trade out of the Persian Gulf region has been reverberating throughout the world economy. And as the war deepens, the reverberative effects of what is taking place will affect everybody everywhere. And so that's our context, my dear friends. As we come together to prepare ourselves for Chartres, and more immediately prepare ourselves for the spring equinox. And originally, as it turns out, synchronistically, Banafsheh has been scheduled to do this session for some time on the matter of the publication of her new book on the dance of oneness. And also because as an Iranian, the Iranian people, as much, if not more than any other people around the world, celebrate the spring equinox as the beginning of the year and have a particular passion and dedication to the circadian rhythms around this time and the march of the zodiac and the planetary rotations around the sun. So we want to celebrate Banafsheh and her book and the spring equinox, even though the context within which we find ourselves is grave in ways that has not been true in any of our lifetimes. I'll be talking about it next week on Humanity Rising. I did a session this last Friday on it that I put in the Chartres Academy chat. So stay tuned for larger world events. But now let's turn the program over to Banashe.
Thank you so much, Jim. Hello, everyone. Greetings to you wherever you are in the world. I want us to start with sensing the ground with our feet and just take a moment to come into our bodies, come into presence, sense our precious Mother Earth lovingly with our feet. Release our weight down onto whatever you're sitting on. Let's together take a deep breath. And exhale. I invite you to stay in touch with the ground as I speak, stay in touch with your breath. It's so important that as so much is happening in our world at the same time, that we try to remain present, grounded, centered. And within that, to be able to have our hearts open to really receive what is happening, not from a place of absolute fear and worry, which of course will happen, but more and more from a place where we can have the capacity to respond. This is a moment, like so many moments in these very consequential times, that we have a convergence of many threads. Today is March 8th, celebrated as the International Women's Day, honoring the achievements of women around the world. So much of our sisters, mothers, grandmothers who really have been the instruments through which we have rights as women today that are similar and equal in many parts of the world to men. So much of that is because of the work of so many women and men. So we want to honor them. We want to honor womanhood, womanness, the feminine spirit, as it is so needed in our world today for us to remember what that is, to remember the divine feminine. And as the people in this community who are so dedicated to living the reality of the divine feminine in the world, to be messengers of the yin, of femininity, the feminine spirit of peacefulness, of harmony, of receptivity, of compassion. So, more than ever, we are called to be the messengers of that. And as Jim said, yes, we are amidst a revolution in my country, in my homeland, Iran, a revolution that started in the final days of last year and escalated to where I was speaking about it in the last call that we had last month, where innocent protesters, unarmed protesters, were massacred by the regime, the occupying forces, the Islamic occupying forces that took over my homeland in 1979, and ever since then have pretty much held the Iranian people in hostage. They started by taking Americans hostage, but proceeded to keep the entire nation hostage. I want to say on this day of dedicated to women's activism and women's achievements that the revolution that we are experiencing really took its ignition from previous uprisings and namely the Woman Life Freedom Uprising that happened in 2022 on the as a result of the murder of a woman who wasn't just wearing her hijab in the way that the security forces enforce, and this was Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old that was killed because of the way she was wearing her hijab. So that led to the Women Life Freedom movement that boldened so many people. It was led by women. They came to the streets and they, instead of fighting what they were against, they stood for what they were for, what they were wanting to see: women's equality, life, honoring freedom. And so much of this movement was expressed through dance. Uh, Ever since 1979, women's dancing in public has been banned. And so to come out on the streets and dance was a great risk. Many of them were arrested, many of them were killed. And these were teenagers, mostly people under the age of 30. But they continued to rise up for what they were for, and for the basic rights of all people living in Iran. I want to say here also something that is very, very important that you may not know, and that is previous to the Islamic occupation, Iran was a country where women and men had equal rights. It was actually one of the first places, even before Switzerland, that women got the rights to vote. And women, when they married, they were allowed, they could keep their own last name. They didn't have to take the last name of their husband. It was a choice. So we lived in a country where what you see now, the images that you see of Iran in the media ever since 1979, is not the country that I remember, because I was born before the revolution and I lived there. What I experienced was very similar to the atmosphere in European countries: a freedom to express, a freedom to be, basic rights were honored. Yes, over time, corruption set in, and some voices were not allowed to express. But what we see now, what we saw start to happen since 1979 is night and day compared to what was before. So just wanting everyone to know that that the images that you see of women in hijab and always following Islamic rights. Being a Muslim was obviously something that you could choose to be during the time before 1979, but it was not enforced. It wasn't mandatory like it is now. So one of the first things that the Islamic government put in place was the repression of women. It is actually founded on putting women, giving less rights to women, diminishing our rights, putting the hijab, the veil on people, making it mandatory. So in 2022, when women started to remove this hijab and to dance in the streets, this was a huge move, and it started to really shake the foundations of the regime. And it, of course, the regime quelled it with uh, brutal killing, brutal massacring of people. So it went underground, the movement went underground. But outside of Iran, so many of us had now renewed hope that something could actually start to happen, that a shift could take place where we can bring this regime down, change it, bring to power what we similar to what we experienced before the Islamic takeover. So what the sparks of that started to emerge, start the little sprouts started to bloom at the end of last year, and people came out on the streets and they were united, they were unarmed, and they demanded their rights. And yes, they called for the regime to step down, but what they faced then was just brutal, just cold blooded massacre. And the regime killed, we don't know the exact numbers, they killed upward of 40,000 people. Anybody who was on the streets during that time was gunned down, even people who might not have been protesting. They imprisoned hundreds of thousands. These people are still in prison. Many were maimed, many were injured, many were wounded, and they couldn't seek medical help because if they went to hospital, so many of them that were taken to hospitals, the regime forces swarmed in and killed them, arrested medical personnel who were attending to them. So, what happened in February and still continued into the early days of March. What happened was unprecedented in the history of Iran, this ancient culture. It was unprecedented, the level of violence, the level of brutal killing of a regime of its own people. So we were all in shock, and so many people called for help. They called for help of outside forces. They called to the US, they called to Israel for help because it felt like this war that had started by the Islamic Revolution, IRGC, the Islamic Revolution Corps, Guard Corps, sorry. The war that was started by them on unarmed protesters was a one-sided war. So they were calling out for help. They were calling out for help from international communities. And unfortunately, in the world we live in, instead of governments, leadership of governments coming together and demanding that this regime that has broken every basic human right there is step down. Unfortunately, we don't have a world where we can do that, where we can come together as a global and have global consensus around that, where the leaders of the most powerful countries can demand something like that of a government who kills its own people. And because we don't have that, and because even if we did have that, this regime would not step down, would not listen, what happened proceeded to take place. I want to also add here that before the Islamic regime took power in 1979, people were on the streets. They demanded that the Shah, Mohammad Reza Shah, step down, that his government step down. And instead of massacring his people, instead of bringing everything down with him, he stepped down. He said, if my people don't want me anymore, I will leave. And he left the country. But we're faced with a people who are entirely different from that. We're faced with a people that instead of stepping down, they are willing to take everyone down with them. They're willing to take down the entire Middle East down with them. They're willing to take the world down with them. And I remember hearing that a while ago when one of their people, one of the regime security leadership was asked, why don't you step down? He said, we will, if we step down, we will give to you a burnt Iran. They are willing to risk everything for their own power. And what we're now experiencing is, to me, beyond heartbreak, even. I don't even know how to express that in words. So we have an absolutely corrupt regime on one hand, and we have Trump and Netanyahu on the other hand. And these are, how can we even trust their intentions in what is happening here? They're proceeding to destroy so many sites in Iran, historic sites, the land. They're hitting, as they say, primarily IRGC sites. But the devastation of that reverberates, and the land is suffering so much. Everyone caught in the fire of this horrendous, horrendous exchange of power, exchange of uh, bullets, and in exchange of fire between two very power hungry regimes and leaders. We're caught in the middle of this, and as Jim is um, telling us, this may escalate into even a greater catastrophe. I want to add that the reports that we get, and I want to also say this to Jim, may I don't think that any of us really have accurate reports of what is actually going on, because I hear one thing from the Iranian side, the Iranians living outside of Iran. They're saying one thing, the regime in Iran is reporting another, and then Western media says something else. Trump is making his whole effort so much bigger, and applauding himself, and touting his victories, and so is the regime in Iran. And in the middle of this, we're all caught in this devastation. And what I can say here is, people like us who do not support war, who don't see war as an answer, I want to stress here, and this is the spirit of the equinox, the spring equinox, the spirit of Nowruz, that we are powerful, that we are powerful, that we, even though it feels like everything in our lives needs to be organized around these greater forces fighting each other, fighting in a way that we don't in any shape or form support or believe in, we are powerful. And our task is to expand what we believe in, which is that human beings can live in harmony with each other, that we can be the custodians of our Mother Earth and all life forms, that we can be these beings that actually contribute to the beauty and to the rebirth and contribute to life in ways that are life affirming, even though we're faced with forces that are absolutely life denying. So the spirit of equinox is that, as you know, is that the light and the dark come into balance. And from there, the light starts to grow. Light starts to expand. And light in this case carries the message of love, the message of harmony, the message of all that is life affirming. So in the spirit of Nowruz, which is honoring also the feminine energy, the energies of our Mother Earth, the energies that are life-giving, in honor of that, I really invite us to, amidst all this horror and the doom and gloom and the news of the catastrophes that may be waiting for us, that we don't forget that there is so much beauty in the world, and there's so much beauty in, between us, and the love that is in this community and in so many communities can actually triumph. So we don't turn away from what is happening. We cannot even in this moment in time turn away from the horrors, but we can hold the deliverance. We can hold the redemption, because this is why we are here, each one of us in this community. And this is why we go to Chartres. We go to Chartres to remember ourselves, to remember that we are messengers of harmony, messengers of the divine feminine. Amidst all this horror, as Jim said, my book is being birthed into the world. My book, Dance of Oneness, on March 10th, it comes out. And it is very appropriate to speak about my book with you here and in this Chartres community call, because it is so interrelated to Chartres. I created the Dance of Oneness modality many years ago, and I started teaching it and performing it in 2005. And my dear friend, Andrew Harvey, who I've known for many years and I love so dearly, kept insisting that I need to write a book. And I would say to Andrew that, look, I'm not speaking and writing are not what I'm comfortable with. I express myself through dance and movement. And words spoken or written to me don't come as naturally. But he kept persisting, he kept persisting. And he suggested that we have a dialogue, that this book can be a dialogue between us. He can ask me questions, and then it will be transcribed, and we can edit it, and there it is, easy. So we started this dialogue in 2015 in Chicago, and it was wonderful. This is when I met his beloved cat, Jade. Peace be upon her soul. The next meeting that we were going to have we tried to find the next meeting, and I was touring around Europe. I was performing and teaching in Germany, and he was going to be in Chartres with Jim and the Chartres Academy. So he said, "Why don't you come to Chartres after you teach in Germany?" So I went to Chartres, and this was my first time going to Chartres and meeting Jim and meeting everyone in the Chartres Academy. It was like an immediate homecoming with this group of people. And I had not been in Chartres before. I did not know anything about the cathedral. I should have studied before I went. I should have researched, but I was busy. And so I just arrived not knowing anything. So I'm going to read from my book the part where I talk about coming to Chartres. I became absorbed in Mother Mary's presence as one of the faces of the divine feminine several years ago, which eventually led me to Chartres. Notre Dame de Chartres, Cathedral of Our Lady at Chartres, in central France, is regarded by many Catholics as Mother Mary's home on earth. The 12th century edifice is a living sacred book, replete with hidden truths and a magnificent labyrinth that is a vortex into timelessness. Since I first traveled to Chartres in the summer of 2016 to meet with Andrew and then to teach, I began to have profound experiences with the divine feminine as manifested through Mother Mary. In my first visits to the cathedral, I wept the entire time. I first felt shattered, then tenderly mended, embraced, and held. I felt I was being initiated into the fundamental technology of transformation, fanon, annihilation, as in dying before you die in the Sufi tradition, and baro, rebirth, life in the divine that follows Fano. It was a constant shedding, a death to the old parts of me. Death to all that is not love is necessary for our entire being to be inhabited by love. A dismembering in order to remember. So when I went to the cathedral for the first time, I was told that this was a Catholic site, but this is not what I saw. I saw beauty. I saw beauty that was also weeping. And this is why I speak about my own experience of just weeping. And this happened to me every time I try to go to the cathedral. It was both an incredible anticipation and wanting to be there all the time, but also a kind of fear of like, what is going to happen to me now? So I became quite obsessed with Chartres and tried to stay there for as long as I could every time that I was there. I was invited to be a part of the Chartres Academy that first year when I went. Andrew had asked me to teach in his place at 7 a.m., which is something I'd never done before. Teach dance movement before coffee was quite a challenge, but I rose up to it literally, and it was quite an experience. So so the book led me to writing this book led me to Chartres, and so much of my experience in Chartres has impacted me, has impacted my life and the book. I share in the book so many of the, not so many, but quite a few important transmissions that I received from the Divine Feminine in the in her manifestation as Mother Mary when I was in Chartres, and I share those in the book. And I want to share just one of them here because I feel that it is important for our time, what we're experiencing in this moment. So, again, reading from my book, I received this transmission. Your body is your soul. Now is the time to embody Sekhmet, the Egyptian lioness goddess, to claim your royalty as humans, and to courageously free yourselves from every form of bondage and slavery. The old paradigms, the religious systems, and the institutions that have wreaked havoc upon this world. Enter into a sacred, holistic relationship with your body, with one another, with the earth and all her community, as well as interdimensional intelligences, so you may stand in right relation and contribute harmoniously to the cosmic family. I just want to also say here that this book is called Dance of Oneness, and it is an invitation to dance your life and what that means. What does dance give us? This liberating power, this power where we feel both confident and divine and grounded and centered and able to meet challenges from a place of capacity. Literally, I've been in so much sorrow, and all of us Iranians, and now it's going to expand to many, many people around the world as well. We're on a roller coaster. One moment we're happy. Yes, they took out the supreme butcher, tyrant, Khomeini, and we're celebrating. The next moment we're in sorrow. They bombed this part and this place of the country. Every bomb is like another shattering to my heart that falls on my land. And also every bomb that is um, shot out from Iran to other countries breaks my heart. So, in this heartbreak and in sensing so much sorrow, I am preparing for a book launch on March 14th, and I'm going to be sharing a dance prayer. So, I was practicing and just dancing for 5, 10 minutes like that. And I felt so elated. I felt so exuberant. I was like, where was this energy? Where was it? While I was just immersed in so much grief and worry. And this is the gift of dance, the way it can just free us in that moment, not turn away from what is happening, but all of a sudden also come in touch with the greater energies that can move through us and why we are here, to come in touch with, again, what I was saying earlier, that we are messengers of love no matter what is happening around us. So, this book is the invitation to come in touch with that. It is not just for dancers, it is the invitation to experience dance as one of the most accessible and joyful ways to embody yourself. And embodiment, as you know, as you've heard me say all the time, is the way that our soul evolves in this dimension. It has been said by great mystics that in this dimension is where we become evolved in all dimensions. And it makes sense because it is so difficult, it is so challenging to be in physicality and stay a lover. Thank you, thank you, thank you for listening. I look forward to being in Chartres with you all, if not before then. And I invite you to dance until we dance together.
Thank you, Banafshe. Uh, I'd like to just begin our dialogue by recalling a very important piece of your story in Chartres that you neglected to mention, probably because of your sense of modesty. But since I, was there in Chartres during the entire time that Banafshe was there, I wanted to share with everyone certain aspects of Banafshe's experience, which in the 21 years that I've been going to Chartres, nobody that I know of experienced to the same level and to the same degree as Banafshe. Many people come to Chartres. Many people walk the labyrinth. But Banafshe, as she indicated, became so passionate that she started to go into the cathedral early in the morning, late at night, sit for hours, and one thing led to another, and she
But
began to
also,
be.
please, Jim, let's here honor my friend Alon, who let
I
me.
was just going to bring him in.
Oh, okay.
She caught the attention of the dean of ritual of the cathedral, and it was through that relationship that Banafshe was given special permission to go into the cathedral early in the morning and stay in the cathedral late at night, including going when no one else was in the cathedral. So she was literally in the cathedral alone. And she was given special permission to go to parts of the crypt, the lower church, that most people never ever see. And it was out of that, everyone, that the invitation arose to have her dance in the labyrinth at the end of our walking of the labyrinth. I believe it was in 2019 at the request of the dean of the ritual of the cathedral, who communicated essentially that the repression of the feminine had become so intense after 800 years of patriarchal domination that what was needed for the rejuvenation of the cathedral was for a woman to dance in the center of the labyrinth. And so in 2019, with some controversy, both for the church and for the Chartres community, we empowered Banafsheh to dance the labyrinth, which she did again last year. Remember, in 2020 and 2021, things were very difficult, and we had to do them online and so forth and so on. And then because of the Olympics, we had to go to Teotihuacan. And last year we returned to Chartres and we danced again. And hopefully she will dance a third and final time this August when we walk the labyrinth. But I think it's very important in honoring Banafsheh today to honor the depth of her commitment to the sacred feminine and the depth of her commitment to expressing love somatically through the dance, no matter what the context that is taking place in the rest of the world. So, Banafsheh, I just wanted to bring those few details in
Thank you, Jim.
because you've
Yeah.
been an historic figure
Well,
in Chartres.
thank you, Jim, for bringing that in. Definitely, the experience in the labyrinth has absolutely given me so much insight, and I was actually quite surprised that Alain, the director,
Yeah.
who asked me to whirl in the labyrinth. I felt like because I had been so dedicated to the spiral shape has been something that I have explored extensively, both through the body and through choreography. Where dancing with my dance, choreographing for my dance ensemble, so much of it is the spiral shape. And so when I was placed in, asked to whirl in the labyrinth, I felt like, wow, I have been prepared for this in my entire life. And what
Mm.
could this really mean? So I want to also now share from my book the part that I speak about whirling in the labyrinth. Um,
Oh, good. Oh, good.
the more I whirled in the labyrinth, the more I surrendered and received energetic downloads. I sensed myself as a vertical channel of light stretching infinitely above and infinitely below, a current I came to call the vertical infinity axis. As I whirled, multiple frequencies of the divine feminine began to emerge in correspondence with the chakras. One luminous resonance was Mary Magdalene. Others reached further back in time, the Egyptian goddess Isis, Sophia, and the primal Mesopotamian Tiamat. During one Samo, I felt the entire, during Samoa's whirling, I felt the entire cathedral itself was the Black Madonna. And in another, I became the Black Madonna at the Labyrinth Center. So much of what I perform and I teach is influenced by the experience of the labyrinth, and I still the experience is still something that I contemplate. I feel like a channel opens when we are in the labyrinth, where this dimensions of past, present, and future intersect and fuse together, and with enough focus and intention, we can open ourselves and channel healing energy into the earth and into our world.
Fantastic. Anyone who's seen Banafsheh whirl in the labyrinth experiences a sublimity of the aesthetics of the invisible realms, the like of which I've never personally experienced. So I just want to encourage everybody, if you haven't seen Banafshé Whirl in the Labyrinth, you need to come to Chartres this August, which leads me as we bring this session to a close, Banafshé. I want to talk with you and have you actually comment on what I think is the core virtue or quality of your work, and that is embodiment. You mentioned a few minutes ago that the soul is in our bodies, and we've discussed before that if it's not embodied, it's not love. If it's not embodied, it's not justice. That there's something about being human in a body, that all these invisible qualities of being only become real to the degree to which we embody them in our day-to-day lives, in our thoughts, in our speech, in our action. And your particular pathway and portal has been the dance, but embodiment more generally has been, I think, as I've gotten to know you, a meta theme, meta thematic for your whole life. So talk to us about embodiment.
So, Jim, I feel that so many of us, and this is our inheritance from the patriarchal systems, and
Mm.
especially enforced through the Abrahamic religions, of this um, approaching the body or having a relationship with the body as a house of sin or a burden that we need to transcend, and it's the cage of spirit. All these references that are so harmful and so untrue.
Mm.
Because even to those traditions, one can say, if this is a house of sin, why was it created? Is God playing a trick on us? What is this? Just a very simple, obvious question. um, I feel like it's actually in their language, it is sinful to say a creation of their God is a sin, don't you think? So, so the invitation to reclaim the sacredness of this vessel and to remember that instead of escaping and transcending, that is the um, suggestion or the demands of these patriarchal systems, let us remember that every experience that we have in this lifetime, even the experiences of transcendence, is through this body. So, what if we actually gave this chance, opened up this possibility that this experience of enlightenment is going to happen through this body, that this is the pathway, that the more we enter into ourselves, the more that experience brings us into a unity with all that is. And that happens through meditation. And the invitation is not to transcend the body to go into this unitive state, but to go through the body,
Mm.
experiencing that inside. That way there isn't such a big separation between enlightened, momentary enlightened states and daily life, because you've already discovered that source of magic or the miraculous within the body. So when you are in your daily life, you just extend that, and it's not such a dual state where, okay, here I am very experiencing enlightenment and transcendent enlightenment, and here I'm living my daily life and it's challenging and difficult.
Mm.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
well put. Yeah, beautifully put. Beautifully put. And then finally, what is it about dance that makes you so embodied? Because there's many ways to be embodied, but your pathway has been the dance. What is it about dance for you that makes you so embodied?
So I have to say that this is what we call sacred dance, right? It's because someone was saying the other day, I was in a conversation, they said, all dance is sacred. And yes, everything actually is sacred. Life is sacred. But we lose touch with that. So the intention of moving in a way that connects body and soul, that moving in a way that is the adoration of beauty in movement, moving in a way that is, as Rumi says, making your body an instrument, playing your love song. So to me, embodiment is embodying love. The two are one and the same.
Mm,
Dance that is, for me, an act of adoration in its foundation, then really brings us in touch with that. And there's a liberation that happens through dancing, Jim, a liberation for everyone. You put on the music that you like. Before you know it, you're moving and you're out of your head. You're not concentrated in your thinking at all times. And you're just moving and you're present. That's what dance does for us. It makes us present in a holistic way, not just in our
beautiful,
head.
beautiful. I'll ask you to give us our blessing as we depart for this session in a moment, but I just want to remind everybody about the pilgrimage coming up. There are two choices. One is to come and join Banafshe and Andrew Harvey and Anine Vandermeer. Both Andrew Harvey and Anine have written magisterial books on Mary Magdalene, and they're going to be sharing everything they're doing. And Peggy Rubin, those of you who've the great Shakespearean actress who can make people do things in a group that I've never seen anybody be able to do. She's going to be there, and others. And then when the 7-day initiatory ritual in Chartres around the Feast of the Assumption is over, we'll be going down a much smaller group. We're limiting it to about 20, 25 people, going down with Veronique Floyol, whose family has been curating the Mary Magdalene tradition in Provence, where Mary Magdalene stayed after the passing and the ascension of Jesus for the last 300 years. So we'll be brought into the sacred presence of Mary Magdalene with a woman whose family has for centuries revered and sustained and kept alive this tradition around Mary Magdalene. I've put the links in the chat box, and I would say under current world conditions, I cannot think of anything more important for our souls than to be in Chartres with Banafshe Sayad and the whirling of the labyrinth and the consecration of Mary, the Mother, the Black Madonna, and Mary Magdalene. In some ways, the triumvirate of the Western sacred feminine traditions. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for holding everything from what's going on in the Middle East to the exuberance of the goddess. And Banapshe, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Your eloquence today and your heartfulness today have been like balm, the balm of Gilead to my soul. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. I want to add that Tony Khalifa will be with us also, and
Oh, yes, Tony's going to be
uh,
there.
Heather
Absolutely.
Ash Amara will be there.
Heather
Mark
Ash,
Gordon will be there. Kaylin Rain. It's
Kaylin
going to be a
Rain.
big feast, and as Anine will teach about, especially the final description in the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, where Mary Magdalene leads us through uh, the great tree within, the eight
Mhm.
vows. So I will join Anine in guiding us through movement to experience this ascent of energy, this becoming developing our light body really is the blueprint that she invites us into experiencing, and to do this during the week of the Assumption of Mary, which is one of the most, if not the most beautiful time to be in Chartres,
Totally, totally.
where the Black Madonnas process in the streets and we all become Team Black Madonna. It's incredible.
And she's only brought out that one day, everybody. The rest of the time, she's in the lower sanctum, in the darkness of the cathedral. And on that one day, the Feast of the Assumption, she's brought out and paraded through the streets.
And then she's put in the choir in front of the great statue of that symbolizes the Assumption. And when we walk the labyrinth, when we do our ceremony in the labyrinth, and the two of them, the risen Mary and the Black Madonna are together, it's unparalleled. The experience, the magic, the transformation that happens is
Mm,
incredible. Jim, maybe in one of the other calls we can talk about what all of that really symbolizes, which is so
sure,
the
sure. Happy to.
bringing up of the beautiful Black Madonna into the light, and then celebrating the union of matter and spirit, the marriage, the hieroskamos.
Mm, mm. Now for the blessing.
Now for the blessing, everyone, as we move toward the equinox, toward this new day. Nowruz means new day in Persian. My prayer is that we remember the deeper truth that even in the darkest moments of history, life is preparing its renewal. May we carry this renewal. May we be the messengers of this renewal.